Hey guys, welcome back to the Drone Camps channel. I'm Justin Davis and we have a special episode today. We have some military nostalgia on the bench. This is the German Tiger I. Now for those of you who don't know about this tank, this is one of the most famous tanks in World War II that Germany built. This was built by Hitler's army. It was the last stand in the war to try to defeat the Allies, Churchill in the United States, France, and others. This tank was extremely durable. It had 100mm armor at the thickest point on this tank, so some of the Allied bombshells would hit this and just bounce off of it. The Allies had a hard time taking these out on the battlefield. The last known one in the world was actually captured during World War II down in Africa when he was trying to invade Africa, and they were able to take this tank, the real tank, and put it in a museum, restore it, and that's the only one in the world that's now working operation. You can see that in a museum, but it's very neat. You can look that up on YouTube. There's a video about it as well. But for guys that are into military nostalgia, this is really cool because it has a lot of the exterior features on here very similar, almost exactly identical to the real tank. It's really neat that they put all this detail in this, and I'll explain some of that to you in just a little bit. But we're also going to do a driving test with this tank. It's a lot of fun to drive. It has tons of features on the transmitter itself. You can drive forward, back, left, and reverse. You can do a 360 track spin. The turret moves left and right all the way around, and the gun goes up and down about 30 degrees. So you also get some targets along with it. It shoots BBs. It also shoots these little tiny sort of airsoft pellets. And it has an infrared option. You can upgrade it to be able to see other tanks around you, other RC tanks, and do sort of an RC tank battle. That's really cool. You also have optional smoke and sound effects on here. You can turn on the smoke, you can turn off the smoke, you can turn the volume on so you can hear the tank engine roar. That's kind of neat as well. And you have a machine gun sound on here as an extra option. That's kind of cool too. And you get a little accessories bundle in here, and I'll open that up and I'll show you that in just a minute. But let's go ahead and take a look at this super cool Tiger I a little closer up. Now I love the detail of this tank. It is super cool, and the transmitter has a lot of really cool features on it as well. You've got sound effects, you have your smoke button option, you can turn the sound on and off, so if you don't want to run it without the sound effects, the engine noise, you can do that as well. Now the neatest thing about this one is when you start it up, it actually sounds like this diesel engine is trying to crank over and start up. It's really cool. I haven't glued in my commander yet. He goes right in the commander's bay right here, the commander's port that opens up in the back here. Should have this little hinge, be able to close up and down. Now I did break mine, so I had to kind of glue mine on there, but that's the beauty of a model. If you do any sort of damages to it, you can just use a little bit of glue and fix it right up. Now I don't want to glue him down just yet, but you can also load in your airsoft pellets in here as well through the commander port. Now let's flip this over and I'll show you where the battery compartment is and where the on-off switch is. So go ahead and turn the tank on its side here. And this is the battery bay. You pull this back right here and it will reveal the battery. Pull that door off. This is the connection for the battery. You don't want to leave this plugged in because it could damage the tank ESC up inside there, so make sure you unplug this after you're finished driving it. It might also drain the battery and hurt the battery. So the battery is a LiPo and it's 2S1800. It's going to give you about 20 minutes drive time out of it. And the on-off button is here. You'll turn on the transmitter first right here, and you'll put your battery inside and put the trap door back on. So push the power button on there and put your tank back right side up. I'm gonna put my little commander back in there. He even has little headphones on here. The detail on the commander is actually pretty cool. Let me show you this a little closer up. He has tons of detail there. And I'm not sure if that's totally historically accurate, but it looks like it might be. He also has his headphones there that go around his neck, and I'll set him back inside the commander's port there. Now let me show you the transmitter that comes along with this. This is what's most important and kind of cool about this tank, that it has all these features built into this transmitter. We can get it to focus just a second. You have volume control here, you have your smoke button, you have your switch sound effect button, we have a machine gun button up here. If you press the left stick all the way up, it's supposed to fire. If you have the airsoft version, if you don't, You can upgrade also to the Airsoft version. You can also upgrade to the infrared. So there's a little port right here that will allow an infrared cannon to be fired at someone else who has the same type of tank. So you guys can actually battle, and that's pretty cool. So if you get hit by another tank at the right spot, it might disable your tank as a part of the game if you're doing infrared tank battles. That's pretty neat too. Also on the transmitter, we have a bullet shooting sound on this side, and we have a lock button right here that will disable the tank. And we can go ahead and turn on the volume here. So listen to it start up. How cool is that? So like I was saying, you do have a lot of options on here. These are your drive sticks, and you can turn the tank left and right by moving this to the right or left. You can also go forward and backwards. Now this tank is quite fast, so you want to be ready for that. And here's your machine gun sound up on the top left. You have your smoke in the very back, and the smoke will come out of here if you have the smoke version. You got this cool little antenna back here as well. And you also have another machine gun button right here where it says G. See if we can get some smoke to come out the back of it. Now they do say that you have to wait about 5 minutes for the smoke to work. So now it turned off the sound. If you hit this little padlock over on the left over here, this little padlock icon should turn the sound off and the tank off. Now I can press that again to start it back up. Just press this little button. You hear that startup sound all over again. Now, I'm a total geek when it comes to this kind of stuff. I love detail in models, and this has a lot of really cool details on the exterior. You have your crew tools on the outside, you've got your shovel, you've got an axe over here, you've got some sort of smaller shovel, you have a sort of a pair of snips there on the left side, and you've got your tow cables on the side here. In case they get stuck, they can pull these off and they can winch it and pull itself out of the mud, and that's actually really cool. Now over here on the front left, these are the driver's ports, so these hatches would pop up, and this is where the driver is. And there's a movie that shows this tank, and it shows the driver driving at the same time while he's looking out the hatch. That was physically impossible because of the way that the interior is situated. You had an ammunition port kind of closely related to where the driver was, so he wasn't able to actually look out the hatch while he was driving on this particular tank. Now this does have that 100mm cannon on here. I'm going to back this up for a second so you can see this end right here, and a lot of people think that this is primarily for muzzle flash, to keep the muzzle flash down. But what this actually does is this reduces the recoil for this particular tank. This design right here extremely reduces the recoil, because this gun right here in the real life version had a tremendous amount of recoil. Hitler wanted this gun to be able to be extremely damaging, so he wanted the biggest shell out of this gun, this main turret, as possible, so this main cannon. Now it does feature hinges along here that do not work, but in real life these would flip up, and this would allow this tank to have a better access to smaller areas, and these along the side here will also flip up in the real life version. Very cool, because it gives the tank a little narrower stance to be able to get through certain tunnel positions. Now you're looking at the Tiger 1 from the top, and this is where the detail gets really fun. I love this stuff. I love the historical accuracy of this. Now if you look at this very top hatch right here, this first hatch right here closest to you, this is the loader's port. What's neat about this is that they put the on-off port right here. I don't have an on-off button, so I don't have the Airsoft version, but if you did have the Airsoft version, you'd be able to turn on and off the mechanism right there that controls the motor for your Airsoft gun, and they will actually shoot out the front of this main turret here, this main cannon. So you also have some little slots on the side. You can't see all the way through these slots, but what these slots are is those were viewing ports. So they would look out these tiny little ports, and they had a really small field of view out of these ports, as you can imagine. We also had a ventilation port right here, and these little canisters left and right, they're identical, both of them. These are where the smoke grenades would fire off. So they have a button inside the tank that they could hit if they wanted to fire off some smoke in front of the tank before an attack. If they wanted to have a little bit of visual barrier between them and their enemy, they could do that. They had 6 of these smoke grenades available, and they also could go in the supply tank back here, which is a nice little addition to this tank. It wasn't much supply area back here, but this is where they might keep their extra gear for working on the tank in the field, and possibly small light munitions inside that box. This is the commander's port right here. He would come up and he would just kind of take an analysis of his surroundings using that port sometimes if it was safe to come out of it. But they also had periscopes that they could release up inside of these ports as well, so they didn't have to risk being shot off the top of the tank, because you always had snipers looking out for whoever was coming out of these hatches at any moment during the war. So now you're looking at the rear of this tank, and it has some super cool historic detail back here as well. You've got this ventilation for the engine system, and the engine was located directly underneath these vents, and you have your exhaust system coming out the back. You sort of have these rubber tubes, and they actually feel like they're kind of hollow rubber tubes, so that's kind of a nice detail. And they're also fashioned down with little tiny fasteners and some screws on there. You also have this ventilation system here on the left and right, which would have ventilated the engine on the real deal, and you have these sort of exhausts that kind of expel the exhaust back away from the crew in the tank. Now over here on the back of the turret, we have this little round hatch right here, and this one doesn't open, but in the real thing, this was actually something that they could flip open and escape. So that was the escape hatch. If they had to abandon this tank, this is where everybody would have came out of. Kind of a small hole. Not everybody could fit through there at once, but they would get out if they needed to. Now another neat detail is that this tank does include some cool stickers that come along with it, and these are special because you can cut them with scissors and apply them just like this. And once I apply them, if I was going to paint this, I would put those stickers on last, but once I've applied them and pressed them down, if you peel the corner back, this will actually peel back and leave on the bottom layer of the sticker. So a lot of detailed models have those types of stickers, so you don't have this extra plastic on there, and that's really cool looking there. So now you're looking at a direct side view of this tank, and you can see these tank treads along here. There is another version that you can get that has all metal gears up inside here, but I have the plastic version. That's totally fine. If I wanted to take these off and paint them silver, I could do that, but I kind of like the way this looks as it came in the box. I'm going to leave all this down here the same, but the cool thing about this is it does have a torsion bar suspension under here. So if you press down on it in the front, you'll see that this tank actually has suspension on it, which is really neat for realistic looking driving, front and rear. Look at the rear, it's also suspended back here. And you have left and right suspension as well, so left and right. It's pretty cool that they put that extra detail into the suspension. Now you're looking over here at the left-hand side of the tank, and this little hatch right here, this was a small munitions port. They could stick a gun out that and fire out the back if they needed to, if someone was coming out behind the tank. If the turret was turning at a different angle, they could get to from the side as well. Now over here on the commander's hatch, you also see these little slots right here, left and right. These go all the way around this hatch, and these are viewing ports for the commander to be able to look all the way around in a 360 without getting shot at. And we have another sort of viewport right here that they could view out. This one doesn't have a hole in it, but on the real thing you had a hole right there, and they could look out right there. So I'm kind of done with showing you guys the external features and some of the features that are in the transmitter. But I gotta say, so someone out there who is into military nostalgia, realism, and models, they would love this. This is super cool for them, especially if they already have a collection of tanks going. The Tiger I is one of the most feared German tanks out there in the world from World War II. So this is neat because it's also paintable. You can add your own paint on there. You can do any kind of color scheme you wanted to. If you wanted to do some sort of shiny metal on there, or some kind of camo would be kind of fun. But I was very impressed with the fact that it does drive quite fast. It does 360s really quick. The turret seems really realistic when it moves up and down. You get that sort of tank sound up and down. That's really fun. A lot of fun for me. And the option to do the airsoft version of it or the infrared version for tank battles. That's a lot of fun. So I hope I get another tank on the channel. This is my first one, and I had a ton of fun reviewing this one for you guys. I love the historical accuracy of this tank. It is super awesome. LEDs on the front as well, so they didn't miss just about any detail or fact about this tank. It's all on there for the German Tiger I. Super cool tank. And before I let you go, let's go ahead and check out the battle tank accessory parts that came along with it. A lot of them are already on there, but I have a few sitting over there that I'll show you before we end this review. So the first important accessory that comes along with it is your charger for your 2S battery. It just plugs into that balance port right here. And I actually got a US converter that came along with this. That was kind of cool. It's in the box. Maybe you'll get one too. This is the European Union version, so guys over in Europe, you can pop this off if you don't need this, but for me, I'm in the US and I can use this. Now it will show red right here when it's charging, and it should go green when it's all finished. Probably takes around an hour to an hour and a half to charge up that battery. I have some other detailed little accessories here. I've got this little hatch here that I can put on. I didn't put that one on yet, but I will. I also have an extra hatchet here, and I have some hinges that I can put on, some little steel hinges there. There's a few of them. And one of my smoke canisters fell off, so I'll have to glue that back on. Probably happened when I was driving it around. But we also have extra gun rails here we can attach as well. You got a few different ones in there. And they also have some metal posts that go along with those. You have some additional port hatches right there. These look like the ventilation ports. There's two of those there. And this little piece of sticky tape right here, this is for your commander. If you don't want to glue him down, like I didn't do yet, I can use this little bit of double-sided sticky tape to stick him in there so that I can remove him later for loading BBs, because that's where your airsoft pellets are going to go in, right where the commander is. If I do that upgrade, I think I might do that for mine. Now, the instruction manuals that come along with this are actually quite detailed. One is for your radio control. It shows you all the different controller parts and functions that each controller button does, and for the sticks that control the tank itself. You also have information on here for your battery hatch and where the power switch is. And there's also a decoding key of the 2.4 gigahertz tank button inside there. It's a little ST button right here inside the battery bay. It's just a little button you switch there. I'm not totally sure what that's for, but there's also instructions on here about how to charge up your battery and for shooting the BBs there if you do the BB upgrade version. Now, this next manual is actually a little larger Chinese and instruction manual, so I believe there is Mandarin in here as well as English. Mandarin up top, English down below, and of course don't drive it out in the street, they're telling you. But this is a pretty detailed manual. You've got some exploded schematics in here on the tank itself. We have where to put the BBs, driving directions in here as well, how to operate it. And you'll see decal locations in there, and it tells you to peel off the back of the sticky backs for your stickers. You can put these decals wherever you want. You don't have to exactly do them like they have them displayed here, but for historical accuracy, this might be the spot you want to put them. And then we have some metal part upgrades. They even have metal upgrade parts available and they have the stock numbers on all those, so you can get.
And last but not least are the 2 targets that you get with it. You can practice with these. If you hit this with the BB, it will definitely knock it over. I've seen other videos where they fire out of the turret with the BB, and the airsoft version mechanism on this tank is actually pretty durable. It's pretty strong. If you want to upgrade to the BB version, there is some videos out there for upgrading to that BB version and the infrared version if you're interested to do that. But I gotta say, overall, I think for $100, this is a lot of fun. I didn't think that this would be something that I would be interested in, but you know what? This has been a lot of fun for me to drive and to play around with. It is really, really cool. Also, for kids that are interested in this, they will absolutely love it. They will think it's the coolest thing. So guys, thanks again for hanging out on the channel. This is my German Tiger 1. I hope that you enjoyed watching the video. Guys, I'm Justin Davis, and I will see you on the next one. The infrared version if you're interested to do that. But I gotta say, overall, I think for $100, this is a lot of fun. I didn't think that this would be something that I would be interested in, but you know what? This has been a lot of fun for me to drive and to play around with. It is really, really cool. Also, for kids that are interested in this, they will absolutely love it. They will think it's the coolest thing. So guys, thanks again for hanging out on the channel. This is my German Tiger 1. I hope that you enjoyed watching the video. Guys, I'm Justin Davis, and I will see you on the next one.